Have you ever had strep throat? Not all sore throats are strep, but strep throat is caused by bacteria. And if you have had it before, it typically really hurts. Chances are, if you have had it, you have taken a course of antibiotics. Antibiotics are specifically designed to destroy prokaryote cells, which in your body will be bacteria, instead of your own cells, which are eukaryote cells. We have This video is going to mention a concern we all have right now about antibiotics resistance that can happen in bacteria. It's also the perfect opportunity to illustrate a process that usually takes a very long time to see: natural selection. Let's explain a basic example of natural selection. Consider these frogs sitting on the logs in their habitat. Let's assume these are the same species of frog, so they can breed with each other and they pass down their DNA to their offspring. Naturally, there is a variety in these frogs. Some of these frogs are darker brown, maybe almost a brown. Some of them are lighting green. There is a variety of traits, even in the same species, just like people. So back to the log. You know what else is in this habitat? Predators. And the predators are finding here that the lighter frogs are much easier to see in this habitat than the darker frogs. So in this particular environment, the darker frogs are having an easier time surviving and potentially for fitness in they can breed. Fitness in the biological sense is determined by not how long they live, but by how many offspring they have. These darker frogs pass down their DNA to their offspring so that the new baby frogs will have the DNA for their parents. The lighter frogs are being selected again since they are easier to see in this habitat. Over a long period of time, you could expect to see a higher frequency of darker frogs. If it continues for a very long time, it could even result in all frogs in this area being darker. Evolution, which is changed over time, could take place because natural selection has occurred. Natural selection is a mechanism of evolution. And one thing to point out, it doesn't necessarily mean that the allele for lighter color is gone completely. The allele could be received and carried within the population. And because of the process like crossing over and mutations, there are opportunities for variety. But if this habitat and predators do not change, darker frog will continue to have more fitness. Now, we do want to point out that variation or mutation are not things that a frog can will itself to have. Frogs can just think, it's better for me to be darker, so I'm just going to have some variation to be darker. Mutation and variations are random. It's possible they might not be any effect on an organism's fitness. So in that case, the genes are based on if that organism happens to be able to reproduce. Or variations and mutations could be negative. If they are negative and negatively affect the organism's fitness, meaning no babies, well, the trait will not be passed down. But if they have a positive effect on the fitness, then that frog may have more babies receive over time, the trait that is in advantage will be more frequent in the population. So what does it have to do with natural selection in bacteria that occurs from antibiotics? Well, keep in mind there's variation in the bacteria as well. For example, some of them may have an enhanced cells wall that makes it hard for antibiotics to enter, or they could contain enzymes that could assist in breaking down antibiotics. Now remember, the bacteria didn't will themselves to have those traits. Like our frog's example, they are random variations. However, we'll take antibiotics, the environment is being altered. The bacteria that have traits that allow them to survive that particular antibiotics have higher fitness and can reproduce, passing on their DNA. Bacteria that not have traits to help them with the antibiotics, because they're dying, they can have fitness and they're dead. Selection has taken place and the resistant bacteria are the survivors. These survivors can reproduce easily with few competitions, and their offspring can inherit a gene that allows them to be resistant to the specific type of antibiotics. Bacteria also have this amazing ability to transfer genes to other bacteria, so they could share that resistance genes with other bacteria. It is possible that this specific type of antibiotics may not be as effective for this person in the future. Hospitals especially have this challenge because they are treating multiple patients with bacterial infections in a closed environment. Healthcare workers must have good hygiene practice so that they do not spread resistant bacteria infections from one infected person to another. So, this example of natural selection that is observable in a short amount of time, which can result in evolution in bacteria. What can be done about this resistance issue? Scientists are often in the process of developing new antibiotics because we do have many types of antibiotics available, so they can stay one step ahead of bacteria. But are still bacteria strain out there that have developed a resistance to commonly used antibiotics, making it very difficult to treat. So it's important to only take antibiotics for bacterial infections. Antibiotics don't work against viruses, and you don't want to be introducing antibiotics in your body when you don't need them. That will just further select for bacteria that have some form of resistance. It's also important to mention that many vaccines like TTIP vaccine can protect you from serious, potentially deadly bacterial infections such as diphtheria, tetanus. Well, that's it for today. Stay curious.